What's up, guys? Coach Vassar. Thank you for joining me with OTF Audio to Daily Beats. As always, if you're new, appreciate you tuning in, listening to me talk about these workouts. If you find value in them, information is in the description to support me. As always, if you have any feedback, please let me know. Any questions, comments, concerns, shoot me a DM. Tell me what's going on in your mind, how I can improve, how I can help you, give you some better information about these workouts, so on and so forth. We're going to break down Tuesday, June 3rd. This will also repeat Saturday, June 21st. It's a strength day across the board. 2G, there's no row-in. 3G, of course, there is. And it's going to be more power-focused for the rower. So, as always, we'll talk about key concepts of the 2G, talk about the 3G, and then get you on out of here. So for today, we're going to see two 10.5-minute tread blocks, alternating between add-in speed or add-in incline, and then creating a consistent challenge in each block. No worries, the highest we go is only 3%. As always, no rowing for this split up section. And then on the floor, we have two blocks, start and finish with a bench sit-up variation, and then grab mini bands for a spicy circuit. Benches out, dumbbells, and mini bands. When we look at the treadmill side, we are gonna see two blocks. Intervals are a minute each until a 30-second all out. And it's gonna be set up with a flat road push into a flat road base. And the goal is to maintain the base speed as we add incline to their active recovery. What they do with their push, I would honestly be something conservative, so that way they could always do that, knowing that the recovery is going to become less of recovery, more of work over time. So we'll start with that 1 minute push. Power walkers 6% or greater, joggers and runners, I would probably keep them 1 to 1.5 over their base, nothing too aggressive. Bikes and striders, probably about 3 gears over base. And then they hit their 1 minute base on the other side. Now, the next round, let's hit the same push. On the base, they're gonna go up 0.5%. Okay, doesn't feel like much, but over time, they'll notice the step cadence has to pick up to compensate for that higher incline, which of course means there's more work being done. Heart rate won't go down as much. And we're gonna alternate between that. So flat road push, and then base will go up again. So the next one will be 2%, and then push, 2.5, push, base at 3.5% incline. And then from that hill, they keep the incline and they go into a 30-second all out. Of course, power walkers will go up to 10% or greater. Joggers and runners, with that 3% incline, two approaches. We could do a very aggressive push and use that incline to get that all out feeling, or they could hit their normal metrics of like 2 or more over their base speed, but also keep the incline. Now for the bikes and striders, they are, because it's very small incline increases, their base could be the same. So they don't have to change anything too much for the bikes and striders. Just alternate between a push gear and a base gear. So 3 over base, back to their regular base, so on and so forth, until that all out. After that, they get 90 seconds to recover, back to base when they are ready, and then we're gonna do it in reverse. So now they'll start with that flat road push into their 3% base climb, and then every round base will decrease. And then same thing, we wanna maintain that base speed. So over time, it should feel more recovery. Of course, with all that cumulative fatigue preloaded from that first block, heart rate is still gonna be elevated. So this is the day where they are gonna ebb and flow between orange quite a bit, but they're not gonna see drastic changes. And truly maintaining that speed, that push doesn't have to be too much, okay? And then they finish with a flat road all out here. So that's the only difference in the two blocks. Doing the incline in reverse, and then flat road for that final all out, okay? Now, when we look at the weight floor side, as I said, there's no rowing. So on the floor, we're gonna see two blocks set up the same way with a 1 minute buy-in and then a 30-second buy-out timed up with the treads. The buy-in and the buy-out are the same, both blocks. So we're gonna see a bench sit-up with no dumbbell into a dumbbell sumo squat. So they want the dumbbell just in front of their bench, so that way their feet are wide. Once they sit up, they can hinge forward. They're in that braced core position, and then from there they stand up with the sumo squat, control as they sit back down, release the weight, and then rock back. Very tough movement with a wider stance for the sit-up portion. So if they need to, they could bring their feet in, and as an option, they could actually pinch their feet against the leg of the bench to create some added weight to keep their feet down as they roll back and up. Then of course, when they go for that sumo squat, bring the feet apart, then hinge forward, grab the dumbbell, stand up. Okay. The buyout, move the dumbbell out of the way, bench sit up to squat jump. They could also go to a squat to toe as an option. It's half the time. The goal here is to be explosive on the jump, or fast if they do squat to toes. Now for the circuits in the 2 blocks, they are set up the same way. 8 reps with mini bands, and the mini bands are going to be placed on the lower body below the knees, so middle of the shins. We're going to have a closed grip chest press with the knees bent. So imagine like a dead bug position. So not quite the hollow hold, because that would be pretty tough. That would be a great off mic challenge. They're gonna have their knees bent, lower back glued to the bench or to the floor. Elbows are tucked in as they do that closed grip chest press with the knees bent, and that band is gonna require a lot of engagement of the lateral hips, which then plays a factor into the next 2 movements. So what may fatigue them is the hip burn-in more so than the actual movements themselves, because those are going to be smaller muscle groups that are being worked the entire time. Second movement is a double crunch with the dumbbell. Still have the band middle of the shins. So the key thing here is the knees and the ankles stay parallel as they come in and out, so they keep tension on the bands. And then also it's a crunch, not a sit-up. So we want to keep that lower back down, shoulders lift up as they bring the dumbbell past the knees. And then they'll stand up and then glue a dumbbell to the chest as they do a banded good morning with the band across the middle of the knees, or middle of the shins. So same idea, pushing the knees out, keep the knees stacked over the ankles, recruit the lateral glutes for more activation there. They're gonna repeat those 3 movements until the 10-minute mark where they go into the bench sit-up, squat, jump. I would give them a heads up at about 9:30 to 9:45 if you use a run and stopwatch. Otherwise, about halfway through that last base, let the weight floor know, take the band off, put the dumbbell off to the side. That way they don't trip on a dumbbell as they sit up and jump. And then they'll go with the treads when they hit the all out. Block 2, same thing, same buy-in, same buy-out. Circuit is different. They're gonna do a single leg hold with contralateral shoulder press. This is a very tough movement because once again, they're having that band, they're gonna stand on 1 foot and then that other leg is gonna extend out. That band is gonna try to pull that leg in. Whichever leg they're standing on, they're pressing with that arm as well. So they're gonna get the opposite hip from the side working in that contracted position for a abduction. At the same time, the standing leg is used to stabilize. So that hip is working as well. Honestly, if they do this right, it is one of the toughest movements that we do because it's balance incorporation, hip strength, and core work, and the shoulders. So many things going on. It's very easy for people to speed through it, or they don't put enough tension on the band, or they have the toe go up instead of the heel raise up. If the toe pivots outward, it's going to recruit some more of the hip flexor rather than the lateral glute. Okay. Then that goes into hammer curls with the band still around the middle of the knees. So just some passive isometric hold there as we're doing the hammer curls. And then we'll go into a goblet squat hold, lateral walk. So for that one, depending on your studio's layout, our studio will have people pivot and face towards the treadmills. So that way as they go this direction, they're not gonna run into each other because our weight floor goes this way, but then the treadmills go this way like an L. For the lateral walk, it is 4 reps. And then for the rep count, it's 3 total steps out, three come back. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's 1. They got 4 of those. Biggest thing though is keeping tension on the bands. Couple ways to kind of give them some feedback with this. You could use like the kneel pad. If you hold that between their knees, we don't want their knees to touch the pad because that's going to force them to keep the feet wide as they step. Because otherwise, if they're bringing the feet too close, they lose the tension on the pad, they lose the engagement of the hips there. Okay. Same thing, a couple rounds of this, and then about the 9:45 mark or halfway through that last base, give them that heads up. They're going to hit that squat, sit up to squat jump. That's a 2G. 3G, 2 blocks on the treads, 2 blocks on the rowers, 1 long block on the weight floor. So on the treadmills, both blocks are 6.5 minutes. Same concept, but bigger jumps on the incline. So they'll have a flat road push, flat road base, and then the next base is 2%, then 3%. So there's no 0.5% measurements. So 2, 3, and then the all out is at 3%. And then block 2, set up the same way. They'll go push, 3% base, and then 2% base, flat road, and a flat road all out. Same goals apply where they are trying to maintain their base speed throughout the duration. So definitely pick a conservative push to maintain as well. They'll have 90 seconds to recover between the 2 blocks. For the rower, it's going to be a 100-meter all-out row followed by a 100-meter recovery row. True, honest opinion, I would not use stored programs for this one, so it makes people go at every 100-meter mark. So from 0 to 100, it's an all-out effort trying to hit the highest watts they can, and then from 100 to 200, slow it down, get as much recovery as possible. 200 to 300, they're back at it. And then 300 to 400, they're slowing it down. So if they need more recovery, row slower, row with less leg drive. Really make that paddle go slow. And then how quick can they finish the all out with maximal watts? So essentially they're gonna be rowing for 6.5 minutes straight if they do it right and if you coach them correctly. Now for the second block, this is one where they're gonna do work and rest. It'll still be a 100-meter all-out row, but then they're gonna get up and do a Y-bell / med ball tricep extension for 10 reps. And they'll repeat that until the finisher. For this one, with the rest and getting up, I would actually do stored programs, and the goal is to hit the highest watts each row. So look at instant watts. You could also look at their average, and if their average is going up, then they're obviously hitting better watts every time. For the tricep extension, just stacked over, all the way up, all the way down, nice and simple, 10 reps there. Now the weight floor block, it's one long sequence, just like the other 2Gs. It'll have a buy-in, buy-out, same thing, 1 minute for the buy-in, timed up with the treads, 30-second buy-out, timed up with the last all-out in block 2. And then we're gonna do 2 rounds of both circuits. So you'll have the closed grip chest press, the double crunch, the good morning, do them all again, then go to the shoulder press, hammer curl, squat, hold, walk, do them all again, and then do it as one big block. So essentially once they put that mini band on, it stays on the entire time, and the goal is to maintain tension on that band. So it is always tight, hips are always active. That will be the limiting factor for these exercises, is the fatigue in the small stabilizer muscles. Whichever group starts with the rower or the weight floor first, and then they go to the treadmills after this, their hips are gonna be pretty tight, or pretty exhausted, which is gonna make the hill work even more challenging. Because remember, we use those hip muscles to stabilize us as we pick up our feet and knees higher when it comes to incline work. So it's a good way to kind of tie it in for them of the benefits of using the mini bands and why we're trying to keep those hips engaged, make them strong, so that way it feels easier on the treadmills later, not so much today because they're going to be tired. Anyways, there you go. That's June 3rd. Once again, repeats Saturday, June 21st. Any feedback, please let me know. If you find value, please support me in the information in the description. Otherwise, coach it down.